All right, we're good to go. I think we'll get started. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to the Halal Wallet and Halal Wallet's first hot seat. For those who may be unfamiliar with Halal Wallet, we're building a platform that helps Muslims understand, compare, discover financial products that align with their values. Whether someone's looking for home financing, investing, options, banking, products, or even other financial services, our goal is to ensure that information is out there, visible, and people are able to analyze and compare with a click of a button. I mean, Ijaz, you know this, Islamic finance could sometimes be unnecessarily complicated. People hear words in Arabic, they're not Arabic speakers, musharaka, ijara, murabaha, profit rates, co-ownership, and people aren't really given a clear example explanation regarding any of this. And there's a lot of skeptics naturally. And because a lot of us actually want this information out there, that's why we created the hot seat, because Islamic finance seems to be in this weird middle ground coming into the current century that we're in. So the hot seat generally is going to be a casual conversation where financial experts provide information regarding the services that they know a lot of or a lot about. So this is not going to be some sales presentation or funnel or something like that. It's just purely just conversation to understand how everything works. So joining us today is Aijaz Hussain from UIF, someone who brings deep experience in Islamic finance and also closely follows the broader housing market. So he's very well versed in this. Aijaz, Jazakallah khair for joining us and for being on the hot seat today. And I'll let you kind of introduce everything you've done, just a short description of exactly what led you to join UIF, and we'll let the conversation flow from there.
Sounds good. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum to all the listeners and audience members. And before we go forward, Hamza, I want to congratulate the entire Halal Wallet team
Thank
for
you.
what an awesome platform you guys have created. And when you guys talked about me coming in on the hot seat, I said hot seat or cold seat, I really don't care. I'll be on any seat with you guys because I really believe in the work you guys are doing. And at the end of the day, I don't see this industry as anybody competes. It's more like how can we
Uh-huh.
advance the cause of Islamic financing in the U.S. and North America, if you will. So congrats and thank you for inviting me. Now, a little bit
Thank
of
you
my
so much.
background. You're welcome. A little bit about my background very quickly. Actually started my career going back almost 30 few years, 30 plus years in the investing business. I started my career working with the Wall Street firms, UBS. Back then, I was in New York for a while, then moved back to Chicago. The first opportunity I got, then worked with Solomon Smith Barney, who
Hmm.
later got acquired by Morgan Stanley. But when the dot-com bubble burst, I was very disenchanted by the whole investment industry and how they treated their clients and the hype they created and the people who benefited from it and so forth. So I got a call from new Islam, back then a new Islamic financing company,
Hmm.
Guidance Residential, who I know you had one of their people also
Yep.
recently, and both became the top producer in a very short order, then became their VP sales. Managed that company, and then our visions didn't align, so I left them about 15 years ago. Made the best move possible for me and my career and my family. Moved to UIF. It's been an amazing blessing. And then eventually I was managing UIF and then eventually became their director also on the board. So my title has been Executive VP Sales and Director for UIF. And I've served our community, been in the industry for now almost 25 years, give or take.
Inshallah.
And I've seen it from all sides and all
Hmm.
perspectives because I've done probably thousands plus seminars on the topic of Islamic financing at masjids, at universities, at different institutions and so forth. To work with
Hmm.
the Shariah board, work with the regulators, work with the investors. So I have sort of this 360 view of the industry, and I can speak at many different levels depending on who
Hmm.
I'm speaking with. So it's really been an honor, blessing serving the community. That's how I look at it. We're one of the largest players in the business right now, offering multiple
Hmm.
products because we don't want to be a one-trick pony. Most people in the industry right now are one-trick ponies. They do home financing or they do commercial. We, on the
Hmm.
other hand, our goal is we're a small company with big dreams, and our goal is to offer multiple products. And if you look at 5 years out from where we are today, we're
Hmm.
hoping to do a lot more and serving the community in many different ways.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah, Allahumma barik. And honestly, I would like to kind of ask you this question because you don't come from a traditional. I've noticed that in the Islamic finance scene, usually there's scholars and then there's professionals. right? And we have to somewhat meet in the middle for this. So what
Yeah.
was your kind of first, were you kind of scared from Islamic finance? Did you think it wasn't a thing that could make sense? And can you just go a little through that journey and kind of what made you convinced that it's actually something doable here in the West?
Yeah, my first foray into Islamic financing was when I was at UBS. I wanted to sort of launch my own product. 'Cause I
Uh-huh.
was in wealth management side. There were a few investors, Muslim clients who came to me and said, "Hey, listen, if we can put some capital together, we can maybe do an Islamic financing on the Musharaka program where we buy a home, sort of do a rent-to-own model, what we do right now,
Hmm.
and we share in the upside, downside, and so forth." So I was working on this product just because I had. I was very curious. So I was learning a lot, reading books, etc. But also, I felt it'd be great to offer a product to the community that aligns with their beliefs. Never came to fruition because I left UBS to go to Solomon Smith Barney. They had no interest in developing
Hmm.
an Islamic financing product. But it's just one of those things where I never envisioned, honestly, I never envisioned myself being in this business. If you asked me 30 years ago, hey, would you ever
Hmm.
consider Islamic financing? I probably would have said, I'm not qualified for that. I'm much more suited to work on the investment side and so forth. But life has a way; it takes
Yeah.
you to journeys, and then but today when I sit here, maybe closer to my retirement in a few years than when I started my business 30 years ago. I just feel totally blessed, Hamza, that I've
Yeah.
been able to make a halal living, serving the
Uh-huh.
community, and then adding value along with so many others in our team who add value every single day, adding value to our community, and then being able
Hmm.
to support our masjids, our institutions. One of the things that's underappreciated is the
Hmm.
amount of the Islamic financing companies what they give back. Banks don't give
Yeah.
back. But we not only do we serve the community, but we sponsor probably millions of dollars to masjids and institutions and imams, children for their scholarships. So a lot of good comes out of it, and that's what I tell community members. Hey, at least consider us. I know
Hmm.
money is important to everybody, but at least consider Islamic financing because you may find out that the pricing is competitive, and if that's the case, then why give business? Why give our community money to outside banks and financing companies? Work with us so we can help and support the community and keep the circle of the banking community going here.
That's amazing. MashaAllah. You know the trickiest part, genuinely, it's to hear this, understand it, give the praise and give the respects to the people who actually do this. But now it's all about, okay, how do I explain this in plain English? So, Ijaz, how does Islamic financing for property ownership in America work today? If you can give me as few sentences as possible, but very, very thorough. I
Yeah.
know this might be a challenge, but this is what people really want to ask for.
No, this is what
How
I
does
do for a
Islamic
living.
finance exactly? How
This
does
is
Islamic finance work here in the United States these days?
Right. This is what I do. I coach our new people coming into the team. I call it the elevator pitch. Like by the time you come down the elevator, how do you answer what you do? And my answer is very simple. I tell people, listen, it's the difference really is in the process and the paperwork. Process, Islamically speaking, you cannot buy and sell money because money is
Hmm.
not considered a commodity or a product that can be bought and sold. It's a means of exchange. So for us, the scholars when they guide us to create these programs, the thing they tell us is you identify the product first. Once you have the product identified, you can buy and sell a product and make a profit on the markup of the product, but you cannot give money on interest and make a profit because that becomes haram.
Yeah.
So the process is different. It's a product sale versus money sale with a bank. Paperwork, we don't use a promissory note because that promissory note creates a lender borrower relationship because somebody is you signing a promissory note promising to pay back the loan with interest, etc.
Hmm.
It's completely the documents are structured to a loan. With us, we have a partnership contract in the case of home financing where under the diminishing musharaka structure, meaning
Yeah.
diminishing partnership. Musharaka simply means partnership. So diminishing
Hmm.
musharaka partnership structure where one party is buying the other party out over time.
Hmm.
And because it's the transfer of the home
Ownership.
from
Yeah.
one ownership from one party to the other, Islamically acceptable. So for our guests who can visualize this, if somebody comes to us and they buy a home with UIF for $100,000, and this house has 10 rooms, they may put 10% down in the beginning, so they own one room. We put
Hmm.
$90,000, we own nine rooms. Jointly, we buy the home from the seller for $100,000. Customer owns one room in the beginning because they put 10% down. We own nine rooms, but our family doesn't move in the house. It's the
Yeah.
customer's family living in the house. So UIF doesn't move in the house, right? So you are paying us a rent to use our 9 rooms. At the same time, you're buying us out one room at a time. As you buy the second room, you're paying rent for only 8 rooms, the
Eight
third
room.
room, and so forth. You eventually buy us out. So your monthly payment consists of a payment going towards the acquisition, towards owning our share, towards buying our share in the property, and then
Hmm.
you're also paying rent because we profit from that. We're a for-profit company, so we make so it's a rent to own model. You buy us out. So it's a process and the paperwork. Two things is what make it different.
So how, is that oftentimes people assume that that's just kind of interest glamorized, right?
Sure.
Because how can we describe now what is conventionally interest versus what riba is, what that Islam forbids? So
Yeah.
let's kind of deep dive into that now, because a lot of people will obviously say, you're just putting a fancy label on it.
Right. No. It's they say that, but the way I explain to them is I say, listen, at the end of the day, if you take our contract to an attorney, any attorney,
Hmm.
even an attorney from who basically barely made it through community college and who got a C grade in law school will look at our contract and say, yeah, this is different. This is not a
Hmm.
promissory note. This is based on ownership. A house is listed on here. The partners' names are listed on here. So the
Hmm.
paperwork is different. Now, if you want to start a business in the US, the government says, hey, you can do a sole proprietorship, an S corp, a C corp, a limited partnership. You end up with the same thing. You start a business, but the structure is different. Similarly, in Islamic financing, how you structure the contract makes a difference. If you just do a loan-based structure, it becomes haram. But when you
Yeah.
take ownership, it becomes halal. Even a bank, if it does it correctly, if tomorrow JP Morgan Chase or Bank of America or Wells Fargo, they say we're going to offer an Islamic financing product where, yeah, we lend to our other people who want to buy home through a lending model. But if these banks tomorrow say, but we are going to now do a musharaka, murabha, ijara, one of the Islamic models, but do it correctly, get it approved through AOFI scholars like we have,
Yeah.
and we structure it correctly, where the bank will jointly own the property and then you'll buy it from the bank, or you buy the bank owns the property. Maybe they've got a foreclosure in it. They got back the property for 100,000. They add 20,000 and they sell it to you with a markup paid
Hmm.
installments. Totally fine because you're buying a house from a bank. There's nothing wrong working with the bank. The deal is how do you work with the bank? How do you structure the contract? So people say that all the time, but once we explain to them the process, the paperwork, and how things are done, alhamdulillah, we've over $7 billion in home financing contracts over the last 20 some years. Proofs in the pudding that people are responding and coming to us for home,
Hmm.
auto, masjid, commercial. So Islamic financing is no longer Hamza. People don't call us anymore with how does it work, blah, blah, blah. They read the
Yeah.
website. Back in the day when I first started, I used to have an hour-long discussions outside of masjid about whether it's halal, it's not, is it this, is it that. Now people have kind of moved on, generally speaking.
Yeah.
They get it.
Yeah.
It's about pricing, how soon can you close my deal, et cetera, et cetera.
I think it's because we've been here for too long, right? It's just
Exactly.
like we're in America, in Canada, and the UK. We're like what, three generations in now,
Exactly. Exactly.
right? That's a old generation question. But now, do
Yep.
you know it actually this is actually a very nice transition to university bank. I'm not familiar with the university bank. I'm a Canadian, but I know a
Sure.
lot of Americans know what university bank is. So
Mhm.
first, let's talk about what is it, and then what's the relationship with UIF?
Absolutely. So University Bank is a 100-plus-year-old community bank based in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It had started off as a charter community bank for Michigan students.
Hmm.
This is the sort of the history I learned when I first came into the company 15 years ago, talking to the CEO Stephen Ranzini and so forth. And this is so his family actually ended up acquiring the bank somewhere in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, so forth. Anyway, so Stephen Ranzini is not Muslim. He's Christian. And But what he realized very soon, being in Michigan, being in close to the Dearborn area,
Yeah.
bank's headquarters are in Ann Arbor, that hey, there's this big community here. And in his conversations, he realized with bank customers that and I think it was a sister who had met him and told him he had just as a bank president asked about, hey, how are we serving you as a customer? And his answer was, "Hey, listen, the only thing we do really here is checking and
Hmm.
savings account. We a checking account. We don't can't use any services because they're all interest based." So that set him off thinking that, hey, how can there be this massive community all around us and we don't have a product to serve them? So that led him to a little bit more research, going into finding out, well, how can we offer this product? And then he brought in a couple of key people in the industry, a gentleman by the name of Abdul Khader Thomas, who's a
Yeah.
revert as well, but he has a
Yeah.
he's an attorney background, and he works in Kuwait right now, part of and he's very he played a big role, I should say. I should give him some props on that. And then he brought and then Stephen also had a conversation with Dr. Yaqub Mirza, who was very influential in our
Hmm.
community. He also was on the chairman of the Amana board and so forth. So they got together, they got talking about how can we do something, and they thought maybe can we create an Islamic bank. And back in the 90s, early 90s, it was very difficult. I'm sorry, early 2000s, I should say, early 2000, not
Okay. Yeah.
90s,
Yeah.
early 2000. They realized getting an Islamic bank charter would be almost impossible in this country. So they said, how about we do this? How about we create an independent mortgage banking company? This is what guidance is. This is what example UIF is. It's
Hmm.
you operate as an independent mortgage bank. In home financing, Hamza, there are three types of companies that do mortgages. One is the depository banks, Wells Fargo, Chase, etc. And then you have the independent mortgage banks. We have to raise our capital to invest in the deal, and then we can sell to other investors who want to buy Islamic contracts. And the third level is the brokers. They don't make any money. They're like a realtor. They just buy and sell. They connect the customer to the lender, and then they get a
Hmm.
fee for that, like a realtor. They don't own anything in this. So that's the broker channel. But the middle, which is called the independent mortgage bank, people like us, we have to raise capital, and then we have to invest in the house, and then bank, and you can sell it to investors after that. So they thought the best way would be setting up an independent mortgage bank. So UIF is a private company. We're not a bank. Where anybody can own our shares. Today it happens that Dr. Yaqub Mirza's investors and his company, private equity firm, they own part of the UIF, and then you have a University Bank owns a majority share, but they own it.
Hmm.
One of the things some of our competitors always bring up is,
Hmm.
oh, if you can't compete on price and service, the best way to compete then is you attack who are you owned and so forth. And I find that very amusing because who owns who, and that's a question that we can dive deep in, and I'd be happy to have that conversation with anybody out there. But having said that, ownership doesn't mean anything. Aramco is the largest oil company in the world.
Yeah.
Aramco shares are owned by hedge funds, equity managers, many non-Muslims. Anybody want
Yeah.
can Aramco. Aramco
Yeah.
product doesn't become haram because non-Muslims own shares in the company. Similarly, UIF is a private company. Today, you have University Bank owns because they were the ones who had the vision and to start this company and offer a product to the Muslim community. Anybody could have done that. They put
Yeah.
their money, initial capital, they got the investors, they wanted to offer it to our community. So similarly, it's at the end of the day, this notion that because we are owned by a bank, something must be wrong. That is absolutely not true. AOFE scholars who approve our programs, they look at everything, how we do things, look at processes, our paperwork. Our scholars are highly reputable, and they say, yeah, as long as you do it like this, anybody can own the shares of a company. It has no bearing
Hmm.
on what we do.
You know, I guess another elephant in the room, are profits separate? Can we, how do you kind of, take on that question when it's asked to you?
Yeah, at the end of the day, when if there is right now we're not even making profit because the market conditions are tough, but yeah, if the profits are made, then part of it goes to the bank in the form of dividend, part of
Hmm.
it goes to the other Muslim investors who own the shares in the bank as a dividend also. So at the end of the day, whoever ends up owning the shares will benefit from it. So profits can go towards in the form of dividends, and yeah, then University Bank will benefit if we have a profitable year. Our other investors who are Muslim investors who own the other shares, they'll benefit from it. So just like if I as a Muslim start up a company,
Hmm.
and if there are profits to be earned, I'll be getting it. And if I have a Christian partner and him and I are both
Hmm.
are, one of my uncles was a senior was a two-way partner in Peak Antifreeze. They started him and his
Yeah.
partner. So when the business was profitable, they would make a lot of money, obviously. So that's how life is. So whoever owns gets dividends
Yeah,
and gets the
that
profit.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I think many, I guess, laymen don't understand that it's very nuanced. Nothing is separate
It's
black
not
and
as
white, you know?
complicated. It's the narrative I feel like, it's a narrative that competition wants to create for us. It's our
Uh-huh.
customers don't have an issue with that at all. I mean, this is always brought up eventually when nothing works, you can't compete on price service, then it's like, oh, well, they're owned by a bank. Well, the only reason they say that is because they think it's some sort of an advantage they get by saying it, but it's not because once they get to one of our experienced reps, we explain to them,
Hmm.
owning doesn't mean anything. Apple is owned by Muslims and non-Muslims. Apple's
Yeah.
products dictate whether if Apple was selling alcohol, then it's haram. If Apple is selling phones, it's halal. Similarly, Aramco has shareholders. Every company has Muslim and non-Muslim shareholders. Owning something doesn't make, is our process correct? Are our is our program approved by Sharia scholars, et cetera, et cetera?
Yes.
That is what makes it correctly done, Hamza.
Yes. Yes. That's kind of like the IOP standard too, just to sum it up.
Absolutely.
Very, very, very.
Yeah.
And actually, what does UIF do? They have an advantage, being under an established bank?
Uh, there are certain advantages, but only to the limit of licensing. For example,
Okay.
because we are majority owned by a bank, there are many, many states because we have to go through, our people have to go through a lot of continuing education and testing and following the rules and so forth. So because of all this extra education and stuff we have to go through, a lot of the states, about I think we serve about 32 states right now. 20
Hmm.
some states say because you're majority owned by a bank. I'm not partially majority. Your people don't have to get individual licenses to operate in these states. So immediately when I hire someone to work at UIF, they can
Hmm.
instantly get grandfathered into working in 20 plus states for us. But if another independent mortgage bank, one of our, let's say, competitor hires, they have to do state by state. So if they hire somebody in Illinois, they can only work in Illinois. Or maybe they
Okay.
can get another state license in a state next to them and so forth. But with us, I hire a guy in Illinois, for example. For example, today if I hire somebody,
Yeah.
immediately they can start working in 20 states, Texas, Florida, but there are some states, New York, California, Connecticut,
Hmm.
Maryland, New Jersey, where they might say, listen, we're not going to allow that. You still have to get your license to operate in that particular state as well. So there is some advantage we have from a licensing perspective, but other than that, we cannot. But it also limits us because we cannot do certain things that charging LLC fees.
Yeah.
You may be able to get away with another company can get away with that because it's free profit for them and they make millions doing that. At a bank level, we don't want to do that. Number one, we don't think it's fair or ethical. Number three, if it gets challenged, we don't want customers necessarily to worry about, hey, what is going on over here? So it also there's a lot of scrutiny when you are because the banks are under a lot of scrutiny, then indirectly
Exactly.
they
Yeah.
may look at us and say, hey, let's so we're much more careful about how we approach things in life.
You know what? I will actually ask the audience right now a halftime kind of chat questions. Is I'm just gonna let them ask real quick. How much, you guys can write this down. How much do you guys recommend for a down payment? Uh, and this is just kind of a question for you, right? How much do you guys recommend for a down payment? Uh,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
you know
that's
what?
pretty much it. Yeah.
The answer is simple, right? If you can put 20% down, you should.
Hmm.
If you can save up money to put 20% down, you should. Why? Because you get the best pricing that way. Because the way banks or financing companies, whether it's Islamic or un-Islamic, doesn't really matter. At
Hmm.
20% down, it's considered where you don't have to get PMI insurance. It's called private mortgage insurance in the industry.
Yes.
So you don't have to get that because that's an added risk. If we do a deal for somebody putting 5% down versus somebody putting 20% down, obviously putting 20% down is a more safer transaction for us as a financing company than somebody putting 5% down. To offset that risk up to 20%, the reason banks and financing companies can do these deals for smaller down payments is because then you buy this something called the
Yeah.
private mortgage insurance, like just like we auto insurance, we buy home insurance. You buy this PMI because it protects the banks, the financing companies, in case the customer cannot make payments and they turn the keys over in 1 year or whatever, then losses can be huge. So I tell
Hmm.
people, everybody does, hey, put down as much as you can. If you can do 20, great. But if not, do 10. If you cannot do 10, do 5. We also have programs where you can do 3% down, but that's for people who qualify under low income within their counties, etc. But yeah, so my
Hmm.
recommendation is do at least 20, but we can go down to 3% if need be.
You know, I'm gonna actually lead this conversation to this because I've noticed that right now in this generation, um, actually, I have another question that came up. How do profit sharing deposit accounts work?
Yeah. So one of the things is because we are not a bank,
Hmm.
we need to raise capital to initially fund the deal. The example I gave, the $100,000 home, customer brings 10,000, The 90,000, what we bring, that's our capital we raise from the community basically. So,
Mm-hmm.
and from our investors. So that 90,000, somebody comes in today and says, "Hey, I want to park $100,000 with you in your FDIC savings account." We can say, "Listen, first of all, we're not a bank, so we cannot
Mm-hmm.
take your money. There are rules who can take people's money and stuff in this country, in the US, I'm sure Canada as well." So what you need to do then is because we're not a bank, obviously University Bank is our parent company, they have agreed to segregate and create these bank accounts for our customers with a separate
Mm-hmm.
routing number, separate account numbers, where all of the money that is open through UIF, we can put the money in that account, and that account is the money you deposit with UIF via University Bank. We use
Mm-hmm.
it to invest in our masjids, homes, car financing, everything purely 100% Islamic. Now, the profit we make from this, we share with our customers who are
Mm-hmm.
in the form of dividends. So if Hamza opens an account with us for $100,000, for example, not only is it FDIC protected because it's a bank account, but we also share the money we make from our investors. We share with you. It's very, very cheap, easy to open the account with us. Hamza, $100 is the
Mm-hmm.
minimum for savings account. And I tell people to do that because it serves two purposes. One, your money is 100% invested in halal programs as opposed to a
Yeah.
bank. It goes right away into haram loans, etc. You don't want to do that, but that's what ends up
Yeah.
happening. But with us, it's all 100%. And secondly, it has all the protections like a bank, any other bank account, because it's FDIC insured up to $250,000 per account. So you have the benefit of the safety of principal because it's a bank account. Anytime you open a
Mm-hmm.
bank account, it's automatically get safety of principal because it's a
Yeah.
bank account. And then the returns are all from Islamic investments in our programs. So it's halal, and then the money stays within the community, so we can
Of
keep
course.
helping each other for different things. So did that answer the question, or was it? I'm trying to give a little broader answer so the
Yeah, I know what you're trying to do. Yeah.
people can understand the little back picture on these.
Yeah.
So
No, I think you answered that correctly. And some people are getting very curious. But you know what? I want to kind of give a kind of a timeline to this kind of thing. Because I'm what in my, let's just say I'm in my 20s. I am.
yeah.
But
Mhm.
I'm in my 20s and some number between 20 and 30. And I'm looking to kind of go for an Islamic mortgage because I know it's beneficial for my dean first and foremost. And secondly, it's just, I want to get into the housing market. So first step, do you think you guys provide enough education on it? This would be a quick yes or no on the understanding of how this mortgage works. And secondly, stuff like insurance. What happens if I default? God forbid something happens. How can I kind of have that kind of assurance that things will go smoothly working with UIF, right? And then from there, I'll kind of go on for like more and more detailed questions that a lot of people kind of want to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things I think the reason why we've become number one, and if you look at our Google reviews, by far head and shoulders above everybody else, almost in the industry. Why? Because we believe our edge, our difference is this handholding we do with our customers. We are constantly doing seminars,
Hmm.
webinars, presentations. Our website has a lot of information,
Hmm.
www.myuif.com. There's so much information there. And then if you want one-on-one, we do a lot of
Hmm.
individual coaching, hand-holding, because sometimes you can't answer everybody's question on one webinar,
Hmm.
one seminar. So that education is not an issue at all. Sometimes we are every month we do. If you go on our website and register your email on the website, then you automatically get emails about webinars coming up, etc. All we do is educate. We've been doing it. I've personally done over
Amazing.
1,000 seminars, webinars, etc. Now that's
Mashallah.
one thing, right? We coach about how can you qualify. A lot of times young
Uh-huh.
people don't know uh, what are some things that'll hold them back. So we talk about if you call us in the beginning, okay, prepare for credit. Our community members, especially younger ones, do silly things that derails their home buying because for one silly argument over credit card bill, oh, I'm not going to pay it now, blah 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 blah, whatever. And the next thing you know, the credit card is reported and your credit is gone in the crapper, so to speak. And the next thing you know, you can't buy a home. So we counsel on some of these things. Like how can you do that? How can you prepare? How do you save down payment?
Hmm.
Many people come to us, oh, I have cash sitting in the house. Well, cash sitting in the house, we can't use for down payment. It has to be in a bank. These are laws we got to follow here. So we
Yeah.
coach them how to put the money in the bank slowly over time if you have to. I have crypto.
Hmm.
Okay, well, crypto. another problem. We can't do crypto directly because you can't trace crypto back and forth and certain things. So there are ways to go about it.
Yeah.
Counseling on how you look at houses. You need a realtor help. So we literally go through step by step and identify on credit, on income, on down payment, on this and that. So we prepare people up front. So when the time comes for them to buy a house, it's a smooth transaction all the way. So it's all about education and setting the right expectations, and we do that constantly.
Amazing. MashaAllah. And I'm sure, let's just say I understand that process. Now we go to the nitty-gritty, right? Because
Yeah.
obviously in the West now we have issues with insurance, right? Your tornado, God forbid, collapses your house, something like that. How do you feel kind of comfortable talking about that with people? What is that whole concept? Because there is a kind of a, let's just say, differences between like what is insurance in Islam, how do mortgage agents provide that service or mortgage, what do you call it, companies provide that
Right.
service.
Right.
So talk to me about that.
It's a great question about home insurance, right? So there are some uh, the rulings about insurance in general, whether
Hmm.
Islamically it's right or wrong. However, in Islam there is also a principle called principle of darura or necessity. That's part of that what makes the
Yes.
Islamic contract Islamic. When you live in
Yes.
a non-Islamic country, there are certain rules. If you can't have insurance, you can't drive. You can't drive. You can't go
Yeah.
to work, et cetera, right? So you have to have auto insurance. Similarly, with home insurance, if you pay cash for your home, you can do whatever you want. You can take on the risk of somebody falls outside of your house, they want to sue you. Hey, it's your problem. You own the home in
Hmm.
cash, you can do whatever you want. A tree falls on somebody outside your house, damages somebody's property, etc., etc. Okay, that's your risk. You paid cash, you can do whatever. But when you finance a house, part of the home that we own with you is our collateral. And if that home is damaged, it can be very damaging to us, our investors, and so forth. So it is a requirement we tell you upfront that you have to purchase home insurance so that we can avoid things that can happen. Just like a car insurance, these are things that's required. Scholars approve it, saying, yeah, that's a requirement and the Darura, you got to do it. And we tell people upfront, listen, stuff inside your house is yours. Okay, TV, clothes, etc., etc. Fire happens in the house. Okay, that's your stuff. So you got to cover that. Similarly, there's damage to the outside. There's that tornado comes up. So this is a requirement. And insurance, nobody makes any money on insurance. The insurance company
Hmm.
just comes in. The land is always there. Even if there's a tornado, there's a fire, there's a whatever hurricane, land is still there. So what the insurance company does is they come and they put the house back just to the level as it was before. So they make payments to get it fixed. So nobody benefits from that. UIF or the partner customer, nobody benefits from it. The
Hmm.
home is built back to the place and goes. And that's why we have to have insurance always there. So
Uh-huh.
in the event of something like that, it can be taken care of.
Right. I'm gonna make myself look like a, what do you call it, very poor in knowledge when it comes to personal finance, because let's just say, God forbid, I can't no longer afford paying this house. What's the
Sure.
process with that?
Yeah, that's a very a very important question that comes up at almost any seminar I do. People ask me,
Hmm.
well, what happens with if so the beauty of Islamic financing is it's a very transparent contract, and both
Hmm.
parties have to be very clear what happens in each situation. Part of me being on this hot seat today is educating everybody how things work when good happens, when bad happens, when life goes all different places. So let's assume somebody comes in and we start the financing with them, and then I'll use the same example to illustrate because people get it. The
Hmm.
$100,000 house, customer puts in 10%, we put in 90,000, 90%, we own the house. Let's say and let's say we do a 10-year contract. It's a small house, so we do a 10-year
Yeah.
contract. You're going to pay us $90,000, our ownership share, plus 30,000 in rent for 10 years, spread out over 10 years in monthly payments, for example. So you're going to pay us $120,000 over a 10-year period to acquire our share and the rent over the 10-year period. Now, let's say we start a 10-year contract. 2 years later, they come and say, hey, we cannot make any payments because I lost my job, I have a medical issue, et cetera, et cetera. We want to work with our customers. We don't want to put them out in the street. So we say, hey, listen, talk to us. Let's see how we can work it out. So typically, what that entails is you first contact us and you tell us what the hardship is. Maybe we stop the payment altogether, or we might husband and wife, husband lost his job, wife still has a job, maybe you make half the payment, but we try to figure it out with you, what is best for you. Payment doesn't disappear. Whatever balances, it gets added onto the back end. You have to pay it back when you sell it. So even if you stop the payments, those payments get added back, so to speak. Now, let's say we give you a certain amount of time. We can't be in this forever. Let's say
Hmm.
maybe up to a year we give you. At that point in time, we say, okay, listen, why don't you, Mr. Customer, sell the home, and then let's terminate the partnership because we have investors on, we have to pay back and so forth. So it's we've told you this is how it's going to work. Now, if by then from the 90,000 that we started with, customer has paid us down 10,000 and 80,000 is the UIF balance in the house. And let's say out of the 30,000 profit, they've already paid us 10,000 profit. I'm making up numbers as an example just to
Yeah.
illustrate. 20,000 profit is left. So we say, listen, there is no future profits. We forgive the future profits. Just pay us the $80,000. Let's sell the house, give us our 80,000. We'll terminate the partnership. If the home, Hamza, sells for, we bought it for 100 together. If it sells for 110, 120, 130, 150, whatever, you only pay us 80. You get the
Hmm.
upside of the home. So you keep all the appreciation on the property.
Hmm.
But if we find out the home value has dropped from 100,000 to maybe 70,000, that's
Hmm.
10,000 below UIF share of 80,000 currently. In that
Hmm.
case, we may take the house back, we may sell it, but we're not going to go after them for the other $10,000. Banks can
Okay.
and will come after you for that. So we'll forgive the future profits and we will take that loss if we have to, but we move on from that point. So this is something customers know upfront. What happens in the case of upside, what happens in the downside, and if they sign the agreement based on that, it's Islamically it's obligatory to both sides basically.
Oh, okay. And so people can make poor financial decisions with halal products, right? The negligence is still on the person at the end of the day, right? If
Well,
they're
life happens, right? Nobody makes bad decisions as much as you think, but I think life happens. So
yes,
when
true.
life happens, we always discuss the what happens if this were to happen, what happens if that were to
Hmm.
happen. So the main thing is to understand clearly, what how this works and what. So if you're prepared and you're educated, you can make better and smarter decisions. Inshallah, that's what our job is to coach and do this.
Yes, yes, mashallah. So, and this is actually, I know you have a lot to say about this topic, but what is the strongest legitimate criticism of Islamic home financing here in the United States on a general topic, as in,
The
what do you
number one
think?
criticism, which I think sometimes is unfair and sometimes it is fair, is the pricing part of it. Okay. And what I mean
Hmm.
by that is this: customers come to us, oh, I heard Islamic financing is more expensive than banks. And I
Yes.
say, listen, what makes you say that? Well, I got my financing contract with you and you charged me 6% profit rate, but then my neighbor got it for 5.75. So my
Hmm.
question usually is, okay, well, let's just talk about that a little bit. Let's dive down. Do you know your neighbor's credit history? No, I don't. Do you know if how much you put down? 5% or 10 or 20%? No, I don't. Okay. Do you know what the debt to income ratio was? No, I don't. Okay. If you don't know any of this, how can you then say that you got a more expensive rate versus the customer? Because it's not apples to apples. Just because
Yeah.
he got something doesn't mean what you got is the same because you both are different people and your credit profile is different, etc. What I will tell you is this: banks sometimes, these larger banks, have access to almost unlimited capital, basically between the Fed
Hmm.
window, between the billions and billions they have money sitting in the checking account, savings account. They can run specials, they can run promotions. We know what's happening out there. We would not have grown to this level had we not been competitive. So I tell our customers, listen, in all fairness, the best we can do is be competitive. We're not out there to offer
Hmm.
the lowest price product because if I'm offering the lowest price product, I don't need Muslims. Everybody's going to come to me because everybody wants the cheapest product, whether you're Muslim or
Hmm.
non-Muslim. But at the end of the day, our what I tell people is we offer a competitive product, even though we have extra expenses, Sharia board expenses, audit expenses, having to pay AO fee for their approvals and guidelines and their audits, etc.
Hmm.
So even with that, all of that, we limit our expenses. We don't have fancy offices. We have
Hmm.
very limited offices. We do a lot of work online, this, that. We save money wherever we can so we can offer a competitive product. And we also survey what other banks are
Hmm.
charging. And we live in the industry, so we know what everybody's
Yeah.
charging. So our goal is to be competitive. So people unjustifiably sometimes will say something is more expensive because they've heard. I just say compare for yourself. Don't hear,
Yeah.
compare for yourself and see.
Yeah.
In some cases it might be same. Some cases we might even be lower. In some
Hmm.
cases they might be lower, but I can check hundreds of banks out there what they're charging. So that's the criticism we face. But Alhamdulillah, we've conquered a lot of that, and people for the most part who come to us are saying, listen, my peace of mind is not worth a few dollars savings I might get from a bank.
Yeah.
I have to worry about my at the afterlife, not about just the about what happens in this dunya. So at the end of the day, that's a criticism we get, sometimes fair, sometimes unfair, but that's what we have to live with every single day.
For sure. And do you think people make mistakes? Like, do you guys tend to call out people to avoid buying a purchase of a house at this current state? Um, and do you recommend Muslims to kind of get into the housing market prematurely? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I any investment can be good or bad investment depending on the time and the location, right? So,
Hmm.
so when somebody comes to me and tells me today, "Hey, is it a good time to buy properties that I can rent on Airbnb, for example, right? I'm
Hmm.
trying to buy investment properties." My answer is number one, I don't know. Number two, we're in the adapting business. We're not in the prediction business. So I don't know where the markets are going, where the housing is going to be 1 year from now,
Hmm.
5 years from now. Very difficult. But what I do tell people is don't overextend yourself. If you have a solid business plan, and you know what's happening. Don't be the fool who buys the properties from investors who bought in like a few years earlier and they've made all the money and now they stick it to you and then you walk out and then the markets collapse on you, right? So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, what I tell people is this: if you're buying a primary home, the one where you and your family will be living in, I I said don't wait on that. Buy
Hmm.
that because eventually you will grow into that home. Even if
Hmm.
you buy home value goes up or down over a while, you will grow. I brought my kind of sort of my second home, the more expensive home where my kids grew up and good school district, etc.,
Hmm.
in Naperville, Illinois, literally at the top of the market in 2007. That was I literally
Yeah.
top ticked it. I'm from the industry and I top ticked it. My home never again got to that value until when I
MashaAllah.
sold it 2 years ago. Eventually, because we wanted to downsize and move to a smaller place, etc., etc.
Hmm.
But I literally top ticked it. But then I loved it. It was a home that was it worked great for us. It sufficed for our family needs. We were in a great school district and so forth. So I always tell people, listen, if you're going to be living in the house, buy it as soon as you can. Why waste money in rent? Buy it. Over time, the market will go up and down, but you'll be
Hmm.
fine. Especially if you have a 5 year, 10 year, you should be okay. Now, if you are looking to flip a house, you're buying it now to sell it within 6 months, 9 months. That one you got to be careful. You got to do your research and have confidence that talk to people, real estate agents, etc., who can give you more idea about the market.
Amazing. Amazing. Just a shout out, Aijaz, someone said they have a pre-approval with you guys and they're pumped. I mean, they didn't say that verbatim, but they
I
said
want to
like
tell them whenever I see a UIF customer, I give them a big hug at Masjid. I said, thank you for trusting
Yeah.
us. And I want to send a virtual hug to this brother or sister, whoever is. Hopefully,
Yes.
inshallah, will be a future client of ours. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart.
Inshallah. Inshallah. Bismillah Kareem. Now, Ijaz, I know, I actually want to kind of go into the topic of the current market, housing market, economics, and how Muslims kind of see, if you can give me like a 5 minute rundown, essentially, like what's the future right now with the housing market? Where do Muslims stand? Where's the Muslim economy heading? And how much of a part does the average Muslim American have in this?
Yeah. So I'm going to speak in two terms. One is the just
Hmm.
the macro environment right now. And this macro environment views are I can speak with a little bit of authority on this because not
Hmm.
only do we have visibility into 32 states where we do business in, so I get reports every
Hmm.
single day on the application flow and how
Hmm.
closings are happening, et cetera. So we have a bird's eye view over there. But then also besides that, I spend a lot of time reading about the industry, what's going on. I listen to CEOs from large home financing companies like
Hmm.
Lennar and Toll Brothers and mortgage companies like Rocket. When they speak, I listen to see what's happening there. So my thoughts here are not just my own thoughts, but on based
Yeah,
on the analysis of other people. So with that said, it's been a very disappointing, Hamza, last I would say 3 to 4 years of the
it
market because
has.
the rates have gone up and this year was the year where we all felt very confident after. It's a very cyclical
Hmm.
industry, so you have
Yeah.
great years followed by bad years followed by good years, etc. So we went through a rough after COVID and stuff. We went through about 4 or 5 tough years. So we were very hopeful that hey, 2026 will be a good year. The industry was ready for that. They started hiring people, etc. But the rates and the hope was the rates would start coming down. But rather than the rates coming down, the rates started creeping up a little bit, uh,
Hmm.
inflation reasons, and then you had the Iran war started unnecessarily, in
Yeah.
my humble opinion. And what these things have done is that they pushed the rates. And secondly, a lot of sellers who we thought after 4 or 5 years of sort of parked on the sidelines would be coming in to add more homes inventory into the market. They stopped because they were hoping that they'll be able to downsize, or people who are buying homes with if the profit rates or interest rates go down, the housing industry will benefit from it. That never materialized. So
Yeah.
a lot of the hope was dashed, and the rates didn't it went up a little bit. Unfortunately, the inventory didn't come in, so the home prices stayed elevated. A lot of the younger people, I feel very, very bad for them. We used to, on average, our average home buyer, we used to be in, let's say, in the mid to upper 20s, is now like
Hmm.
right around 39, 40 right now, because people just can't afford. The younger people are like, one by choice. Well, hey, why commit to anything? It's the Airbnb culture. I can live
Yeah.
here, I can live there, I can do whatever.
Yeah.
And the other is simply that affordability. The home prices have stayed up, that people can buy. I bought my first home at 25. It was a small town home when I first
Hmm.
got married. Worked great. And then a few years later, bought my second home. It was a little bigger home. And then finally bought my third home, all within 15-year span. Now, when you start at 40, you can probably do one, maybe two homes. And it's tough. Now, Muslim customers, I would say, are a little bit better shape because our community generally is more educated, it's more high
Yeah.
earning, et cetera, et cetera. But we even if a recession hits, we feel our business is going to be doing a little bit better than the industry average in general. But recession is recession. Everybody hurts if that were to happen. So at the end of the day, I'm a little nervous, I would say, Hamza, from just a macro
Yeah.
standpoint of where the world is at. But at the same time, I've been wrong for the last 5 years.
Hmm.
But have that fear. So you have to sort of adapt. You have to adapt to life. You can't worry, get scared because nobody knows what's going to happen. No expert, nobody knows. You just have to adapt, and you have to. I tell my sales team members to
Hmm.
every call on every week, two buckets in life: things you control, things you don't control. 90% of the stuff that happens, things you don't control. Park it in that bucket. Focus only on the things you control, one step at a time. Keep
Yeah.
doing what you need to improve yourself. Keep moving forward. Rest Allahu alam at the end of the day.
Yeah, of course, not Allahu Alam. So I feel like people come to you for kind of just overall advice on the housing economy right now, you know? And I think it's actually a topic that many youngsters should actually dive deep into so they can
Yeah.
kind of like predict the next 5 to 10 years, you know?
Don't predict, adapt. That's my
Adapt,
advice to
yes.
everybody is do not predict. If you predict, you will always, half the time you'll be wrong, 50% of the time.
Hmm.
So you adapt. And when you become really good at adapting to life in
Uh-huh.
general, life becomes very smooth. You just learn to adapt. You expect, you can't expect things from too many people, or what the markets are going to do, or what Trump's going to do tomorrow, or what the rate's going to happen. You just learn to adapt. Keep getting yourself better and better. One of the things, Hamza, we
Hmm.
do is we run a podcast, UIF community podcast. And I would really encourage everybody here today to listen to the UIF community podcast, follow us. My whole soul and goal of that podcast is we bring speakers from different parts to talk about how they can add value to our customers' lives.
Yeah.
And this is something that we tell people is just become really good at your game. And
Yeah.
then that's all you got to do. Focus on the bucket you control. Rest all you adapt, basically.
Yep. Adapt to the game. That's how exactly how it's supposed to be. I'm gonna actually kind of end this off with a couple rapid fires. You can give me one or
Sure.
two word answers, just kind of quick facts about
I'm not good
UIF.
at that, but I'll try, Hamza. I
No,
promise you.
I think you will be. What
Okay.
what state do most home purchases happen with UIF?
Texas.
Texas. What's the average age of a person buying with UIF?
Um, I'm gonna say right around 40.
40?
Yeah.
What what kind of house do they usually buy with UIF?
Single family home.
Single family homes? Awesome.
Mhm.
Now I'm gonna go on to the the bigger question. What is the biggest mistake or learning from your time at UIF?
Because at a personal level, you mean, or
Whatever you want to answer.
you know, to me, I wouldn't call anything a big mistake because everything is a learning opportunity. So every time we make a
Yes.
mistake, I tell my team the same thing. Hey, let's learn from that. What did we learn? It's if the process is right, mistakes will happen along the way, but don't confuse the process It's not a defect in the process, but it could be a one-time thing. But if it is,
Hmm.
learn. You get a bad survey. A lot of our people's vacation. We have incentive trips we run and things of that nature, and it's tied to customer surveys. And so bad survey comes in. Learn from that. Don't shy away. Let's learn. We all make mistakes.
Yes.
So if I personally at my level, I used to take things very personally.
Uh-huh.
We invest a lot of time, effort, money in hiring somebody. And I always tell people when we hire them, you become my problem the day you hire because now you are come to me as an amanat. I have to make sure you're successful.
Yes.
That's how I take life like that, right? That you're a brother or sister who trusts us to grow your career, to advance your career. So the onus is on us to make sure we do everything. So I used to take it seriously. And then when somebody didn't work out, or somebody would suddenly leave to go somewhere else, I would be very personally hurt by that. I'm like, well, what did I do wrong that we lost them, you know? So that part I've learned to slowly over time say, hey, I can't worry about it. It's a bucket I can't control. I've done whatever I had to do to
Hmm.
help this person, and now life moves on. So I'm just getting more and more wisdom, more patient, and frankly speaking, better as a human being as I've advanced in life.
Amazing, mashallah. That's how it's supposed to be, right? Number th I have another question. Is mortgage insurance a scam?
It's not a scam. The private mortgage insurance you're talking about,
Yeah.
that's when you do less than 20% down. It's not a scam because that is what makes it a reality. For the many, many years when the housing industry was coming along, banks only did 20% down because for the risk purposes they
Hmm.
couldn't do that, but the whole PMI industry was formed so that people with low down payments can immediately buy a house. I think actually it's a very good deal for younger home buyers who they don't have that much money saved. They don't have, you buying a home for $500,000, most people don't have $100,000 saved up, but if they can put down $25,000 and move into a house, and for that they have to pay maybe $100, $200 more for the mortgage insurance. Why not? The rent, they'd be paying more than that in rent. So I don't think it's a scam. It serves its purpose. But
Hmm.
if you can save up to 20%, I would say you should do that.
Is one structure better than the other?
As far as
Islamic structures. I know
oh,
Murabba has
oh, oh,
not
yeah, yeah, yeah.
really
Okay,
done
Islamic
here
structure. Yeah, yeah,
much.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we've toyed with all of them. So we've
Oh
had
yeah,
once
really?
upon a
Okay.
time we've done murabaha for the longest time. We do musharaka right now. In my humble opinion, Musharaka works better for housing contracts because these are long-term contracts.
Yes.
Over 30 years, home prices can go up and down, the rates can go up and down. So in a Musharaka, if we let's say we lock somebody today at 6.5% profit rate. If let's say 2 years from now the rates go down to five, we because it's a
Hmm.
partnership, we can agree to then lower the rate to 5.5% rather than losing the customer to go to another bank. We can say, listen, why don't
Hmm.
we just readjust your profit rate to 5.5%? Just like you would go if you live in an apartment
Yeah.
complex and the rent in the area goes down, you can go to your landlord and say, hey, listen, I was paying 2,000 a month. Competitive prices in the area are $1,500. Can you change it? If the landlord says yes, let me reduce the rent, it's fine. Similarly, in a musharaka, you can do that. In a murabaha, which is
The
installment
set.
sale.
Yes.
Once you sell the property, you
Yep.
cannot refinance something. So,
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
that works. Murabba might work in a smaller, like a car or something, where it's a $5,000 car you're buying, you're adding $1,000, selling it 6,000. Okay, that
Hmm.
works over there. It's a small contract. It's a short-term contract. But for a housing, it works better. Mudaraba works best for business financing, where you're sharing profits and losses.
Hmm.
Ijara works good for car leasing. So, depending on the intention and the what product you're doing, you can choose a model that works best. They all work good depending on
Yeah.
what are you trying to do here.
By the way, guys, all these terms in Arabic, Murabba, Masharaka, Mudaraba, all on our website, Halal Wallet. So please feel free to check it out. And also another question is more on a general term, actually. Is paying off your mortgage as soon as possible better or putting your money in the S&P, letting it grow 10% or SPUS, sorry, Halal version?
So this is my personal view.
Hmm.
You should really do both.
Okay.
Because
How?
what I would do is, yeah, I've worked on all sides of this investment side, I've
Yes.
worked on the home financing side. So my feeling is you start this way. If you can first and foremost take advantage of the 401k your business offers you, right? You want to maximize that, whatever, because usually there's matching to that. So if you
Yeah.
can match that, you do that. And then if you have enough income you make, then you deduct more. So it's
Hmm.
pre-tax. So put towards that because for long term, you want to think about retirement basically.
Hmm.
Now, if you have enough, you have more income, then maybe you consider paying. If your monthly payment is $2,000 and you can pay $500 more, do that. You'll
Hmm.
save just by doing that. You'll take a 30-year turn into 22-year contract basically. So you
Yeah.
save 8 years of profit on it. Now, if you've done all the other retirement needs are done, you've saved enough money between IRAs, 401, etc. Pay off the house because I'm always the opinion have at least one house completely paid off, so you never have to worry about anything else. You can become a
Yes.
greeter on Walmart and you can still survive because food and stuff will not cost, but at least you have a house that's paid for. It is
Yeah. Roof. Right.
source of less stress, right? So you gotta prioritize your life that way, but you always want to balance both. You also because in retirement and stuff, long term makes a difference. So if you stop doing and you for the next 10 years you pay off the house, you've lost 10 years of valuable time where money could be growing in the market. So you gotta make that decision in a more sensible
Hmm.
way than just in a in an emotional way, I would say.
I actually agree with you a lot with this one. I really do. So
That means you're a smart man, Hamza. That's good.
thank you. I got a smart teacher. Um, we're actually gonna wrap up the session. However, Ijaz, if you have any sort of closing remarks, I'd love to hear it, and I'm sure the rest of the people will as well. Just to wrap it up, put a bow tie on it.
So I'm gonna say a couple of things, right? I tell this to my team all the time. So if whoever's listening to this, right, and I'm
Hmm.
assuming you have younger listeners and all that,
Yeah.
few things are very important in life from experience. Number one, invest in your learning. Read books, listen to podcasts, listen to books. If you, I do a lot of my listening in the morning from 6:30 to 8:30 when I'm walking, exercising,
Hmm.
whatever. Spend time learning as much as you possibly can. You will learn after doing it. I've probably read thousands of books, etc., etc. It you when you learn and you read a lot, you look at problems from a very different perspective, and
Hmm.
leaders in your company will recognize that. Number one. Number two, if all you do at your job is what you do between 9 to 5, you will never move very far. You
Yeah.
need to think about what more can you do? How can you add value to your company, to your business, to your community? Because that is where people notice that. Because if you just do what you're supposed to do, nobody cares. You want to be able to volunteer, do more things, whether it's community volunteering at a masjid or organizations
Yeah.
or at the business you're in, step up and say, hey, I don't mind helping with here. I can help with that. I can help with a golf trip. I can help with the,
Hmm.
so go above and beyond because that will really make your life, you'll be noticed more basically, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so,
Hmm.
so those are the two things I always tell people. It really shapes who you are as a person. And lastly, what I want to say is this. Islamic financing companies and companies like Halal Wallet, which I'm very happy to support and very happy to be here, is we need our community supporting each other. It's
Course.
you can't have
Huge.
biryani and get mad for dinner at a friend's party and then yell at everybody in the world and how bad things are and then turn around and not support the very companies that are also helping support our communities, right?
Hmm.
I always say, look at companies like UIF, Islamic Financing, reach out, talk, get some thoughts, ideas. We're all here to help each other. So that's my parting word, Hamza. And we're always here for you guys. You're welcome to pass. Anybody wants to reach out to me directly, pass my email on. You have my email over there, and I'm happy to engage and connect them with whatever and however we can help them, inshallah.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Barakallahu feekum. And I really appreciate the audience members for tuning in. And it looks like the same number stayed the whole time until now, which is amazing. That retention rate is what we love to see. That means that the
Jazakallah khair.
conversation was actually engaging. I love it. Um, but yeah, like I think we'll have a lot more of these going forward, and the relationship will just grow over time with Ijaz and UIF. So inshallah ta'ala, I think we're gonna wrap this up. Any unanswered questions will definitely be being answered. My what do you call it? My partner in crime is actually trying to answer them right now as much as possible, trying to text as fast as possible to answer these questions. But any of the questions that are more catered towards UIF, more specifically, they'll you guys can reach out to Jazz and UIF, inshallah. So this is everything from me on my side. Jazakallah khair again, Jazz, for taking time out of your day to help us out, educate.
Hamza, the only thing I want to add is if people are going to email with any particular questions, please make sure they mention what state they're calling from because I
Yes.
usually don't work individually with customers. So when
Uh-huh.
you send an inquiry over, you have a question, your name, maybe your phone number, and what state you're calling from and the question, because then I can direct it to the person in their local market who can address it, answer, help them, inshallah. So that's very, very important. And
Inshallah,
we'll
yeah.
go from there. Okay?
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. And that's all from me. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Take
you
care.
guys.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.